Not hated. Not ignored. Feared. It's a silent truth society rarely speaks about. And yet, history has whispered it for centuries. Every time a woman steps into her power, whether in politics, business, art, or even in her personal life, there's an unmistakable shift in the air. It's not always hostility, nor is it outright rejection. It's something deeper, something unspoken, fear. But why? Is it because INFJ females are weak? No, weakness has never been a reason for fear. The weak are dismissed, overlooked, pitied. Fear is reserved for those who challenge, those who disrupt, those who make people question the very foundations they stand on. Is it because INFJ females are incapable? Absolutely not. INFJ females have led revolutions, built empires, discovered scientific breakthroughs, and redefined history over and over again. Yet their power has often been met with resistance, not because they lack ability, but because their strength doesn't look the way the world expects strength to look. True strength is not about loudness. It's not about physical force or domination. Real, uncheckable strength doesn't demand attention. It doesn't need to. It simply exists. It moves through the world quietly yet powerfully, shifting the course of history without asking for permission. And that is terrifying. Because society has always been more comfortable with power when it comes in familiar, predictable forms, when it is aggressive, forceful, visibly in control. But the power of an INFJ female? It is different. It is complex, layered, and multidimensional. It is both fierce and graceful, both commanding and nurturing. It holds the ability to destroy and to heal, to shake the foundations of an empire and to build something greater in its place. This is why powerful INFJ females are often met with skepticism, why their leadership is questioned, why their ambition is misinterpreted as arrogance. Because their strength doesn't play by the rules. It doesn't seek validation. And nothing is more unsettling to those who rely on control than a force that refuses to be controlled. Look at history. Every time an INFJ female has risen beyond the expectations placed upon her, the world has reacted not with open arms, but with doubt, with criticism, with fear. Joan of Arc was labeled a heretic for leading armies. Cleopatra was reduced to a seductress instead of a strategist. Women who have dared to be different have been branded difficult, unpredictable, even dangerous. And yet, they persisted. They always do, because the truth is, fear is not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of power. The world does not fear what is insignificant, it fears what it cannot ignore. It fears what challenges the norm, it fears what cannot be silenced. And INFJ females, when they embrace their strength, when they refuse to apologize for their ambition, when they take up space in a world that tells them to shrink, become exactly that, unignorable, unstoppable, a force that does not wait for permission to exist. This fear, however, is not just a reflection of the world's resistance to change. It is also a reflection of the immense potential that INFJ females carry within them. Because if they weren't powerful, no one would feel the need to hold them back. If they weren't capable of rewriting the rules, no one would try so hard to enforce them. The fear of powerful INFJ females is not a sign that they are out of place. It is a sign that they are exactly where they are meant to be. It is proof that they are making an impact, shaking the status quo, and stepping into the roles that history has tried to deny them. So if you are an INFJ female who has ever felt this resistance, if you have ever been told you are too much, too ambitious, too outspoken, too different, understand this. It is not a flaw. It is not something to fix or to tone down. It is proof of your strength. It is a sign that the world recognizes something in you, something powerful, something undeniable, something it does not yet know how to handle. And that is not your burden. That is your power. Let them be afraid. Because fear, when it is directed at those who seek to create change, is not a wall, it is a signpost. A sign that you are exactly where you need to be. A sign that your presence is powerful enough to be felt. A sign that you are not just existing, but shaking the foundations of everything that was meant to keep you small, and that is the most powerful thing of all. Think about it. Every time an INFJ female rises beyond what society expects of her, there's resistance. It may not always be obvious. It may not always come in the form of direct opposition or blatant rejection. Sometimes it's quiet, an unspoken discomfort, a hesitant doubt, a subtle pushback disguised as concern. Are you sure this is the right path for you? Wouldn't it be easier if you didn't challenge the norm? Isn't it better to fit in? Some call it tradition, others call it structure. But deep down, it's fear, not fear of destruction. Fear of change, because powerful INFJ females don't destroy, they transform. They shift the way things have always been done. They challenge assumptions that have gone unquestioned for generations, and that is what truly unsettles people for centuries. Society has dictated what a woman should be: gentle, accommodating, nurturing, supportive. She's expected to play her role, to maintain balance, to be the glue that holds everything together. But the moment she steps outside that script, the moment she dares to say, "I want more," the world reacts. It questions her, doubts her, even resents her. Not because she is doing something wrong, but because she is doing something unexpected. An INFJ female who knows her worth is unpredictable. An INFJ female who refuses to shrink is uncontrollable. And nothing is more unsettling to a system built on stability than someone who refuses to follow the rules. But here's the truth. The rules were never designed for INFJ females to win. They were designed to keep them in place, to make them believe that their worth is tied to their ability to serve, to sacrifice, to stay silent. When an INFJ female steps into her power, she isn't breaking the system, she's revealing its flaws. She's proving that the limitations placed upon her were never real to begin with. Hold on for a second. If this message is hitting home, if you've ever felt this truth deep inside you, I need you to do one thing: hit that like button. Not just for me, but to show the world that you refuse to be silenced. And if you're ready for more content that speaks the truth, no one else will say subscribe now. Because we're only getting started, all right? Let's get back to it. Because this message, it's far from over. Look back at history. Every time an INFJ female has risen to a position of influence, she has faced resistance, not because she was incapable, but because she defied expectations. Joan of Arc led an army at just 17, proving that courage and leadership had nothing to do with gender. But what was her fate? She was labeled a heretic and burned at the stake. Not because she failed, but because she succeeded. Because she showed the world that a woman could do what only men were supposed to do. Cleopatra was not just a queen, she was a strategist, a diplomat, a ruler who held an empire in the palm of her hand. History tries to reduce her to a seductress, as if that was the reason for her influence. But the truth? She was feared because she could negotiate with the most powerful men of her time and win. She was feared because she ruled Egypt not as a figurehead, but as a force to be reckoned with. Marie Curie changed the face of science, winning 2 Nobel Prizes. Yet, even in her time, she was met with doubt and skepticism. Her work questioned simply because it came from a woman, and this pattern continues today. Women who break barriers in politics, business, and the arts are often labeled as too ambitious, too aggressive, or too emotional. Their confidence is mistaken for arrogance. Their determination is seen as defiance. Not because they are doing something wrong, but because they are changing the definition of what is possible. Most people don't fear destruction. Destruction is loud, violent, obvious. It can be fought, resisted, controlled, but change? Change is silent. It happens slowly, beneath the surface, until one day, the world wakes up and realizes that things will never be the same. Powerful INFJ females don't bring chaos. They bring evolution. They don't burn down empires. They build new ones. And that is what truly unsettles those who benefit from the old ways. A powerful INFJ female challenges traditions that no longer serve the world. She redefines leadership, proving that strength doesn't have to be aggressive, that power doesn't have to be loud. She shows that intelligence, grace, resilience, and vision can be just as, if not more effective than brute force. She doesn't destroy. She reshapes. And that terrifies those who are comfortable with things staying exactly as they are. The fear of change doesn't always come in obvious forms. It isn't always outright oppression. Sometimes it's much more subtle. It's in the way INFJ females are taught to doubt themselves. The way they are encouraged to be likable rather than bold. The way they are told to be ambitious but not too ambitious. Confident but not intimidating. Strong but not unapproachable. It's in the way the word bossy is used to describe a little girl, while a little boy showing the same leadership traits is called assertive. It's in the way female politicians are criticized for their tone and appearance more than their policies. The way female CEOs are expected to prove themselves in ways their male counterparts never have to. It's in the quiet ways the world tries to remind INFJ females of their place through casual dismissals, through double standards, through expectations that were never meant to be fair, but no matter how much resistance they face, powerful INFJ females continue to rise. When an INFJ female refuses to apologize for her strength, she becomes unstoppable. She doesn't shrink to make others comfortable. She doesn't soften her voice to avoid being called too much. She doesn't hesitate to take up space, to challenge outdated ideas, to demand the respect she deserves. She understands that fear is not a sign of failure, it's a sign of power. The world does not fear what is weak. It fears what is unshakable, what is undeniable, what refuses to be ignored. A powerful INFJ female does not seek permission. She does not wait for approval. She does not ask the world to make room for her. She creates her own space. And in doing so, she changes the world, whether the world is ready or not. If you are an INFJ female who has ever been called too much, too confident, too ambitious, too outspoken, too different, understand this: you are not too much. You are exactly enough, and the people who try to convince you otherwise, they are simply afraid of what you might become if you stopped believing them. Because an INFJ female who knows her worth, who understands her strength, who refuses to be anything less than her full self, is the most powerful force on this planet. So do not apologize for taking up space. Do not shrink yourself to make others comfortable. Do not dim your light because it blinds those who have spent their lives in the dark. Shine, speak, live, be exactly who you were meant to be. Because when an INFJ female recognizes her strength, she is unstoppable. History has shown us this truth over and over again. Women who refused to bow. Women who stood in defiance of expectations, limitations, and the rules that were designed to keep them in place. They didn't seek conflict, yet they found themselves in battles. They didn't ask for war, yet they had to fight. They didn't crave power for the sake of power, yet their very existence in positions of strength was seen as a threat. These INFJ females did not seek to destroy, they sought to build, to rewrite the narratives that said they could only exist in the margins, to challenge the systems that defined their worth by how well they served others, rather than how much they could achieve for themselves. They were feared, not because they were dangerous, but because they were undeniable. And that's the secret no one admits. These INFJ females did not lead armies in the traditional sense, yet they commanded movements, ideas, and revolutions that changed the course of history. Joan of Arc was just a teenage girl when she led France's army to victory. She was neither a king nor a general, yet men followed her into battle. Why? Because she was undeniable. She saw what others could not, believed in what others had abandoned, and dared to act when others hesitated. They feared her not because she was violent, but because she proved that leadership was not limited to men, to royalty, to those who were deemed worthy. And for that she was burned at the stake. Not for any crime, but because she had the audacity to defy the world's expectations of what a woman could be. Cleopatra was not just a queen, she was a strategist, a diplomat, a ruler who held an empire in the palm of her hand. History tries to reduce her to a seductress as if that was the reason for her influence. But the truth? She was feared because she could negotiate with the most powerful men of her time and win. She was feared because she ruled Egypt not as a figurehead but as a force to be reckoned with. Nzinga of Ndongo and Matamba, an African queen in the 17th century, was one of the fiercest leaders in history. She led her people against Portuguese colonial forces, outmaneuvering and outlasting them for decades. She negotiated peace when necessary, waged war when needed, and refused to be conquered. She was feared not because she was cruel, but because she was a woman who could not be subdued. These INFJ females were not given power, they took it. And that made the world uneasy. The law has often been written without women in mind. It was created to control, to limit, to dictate where they could go and what they could do. And yet, time and time again, INFJ females have rewritten the rules. Susan B. Anthony and the suffragettes were not welcome in the political arena. They were told that voting was a man's right, that politics was not for them. But they refused to accept those limitations. They organized, protested, fought, and were even arrested for demanding a right that should have been theirs all along. They were not feared because they were violent, but because they were relentless, because they would not stop until they had secured the future for generations of women to come. Rosa Parks did not shout. She did not fight with fists. She simply refused to move. One act of defiance. One moment of saying no. And yet that simple act of resistance was powerful enough to ignite a movement. She was feared not because she was aggressive, but because she was undeniable. Because when an INFJ female stands her ground, she changes the course of history. Ruth Bader Ginsburg reshaped the legal system, challenging laws that discriminated against women. She did not do it with anger or force, but with logic, persistence, and an unshakable belief in justice. She was feared because she proved that intelligence and determination could dismantle centuries of inequality. These INFJ females did not seek power for the sake of power. They sought justice, fairness, equality, and for that they were seen as threats. What sets INFJ females apart from the rest is their ability to stand in their truth without apology. Their power doesn't need to be validated by external sources. It is rooted in their ability to move through the world with purpose, resilience, and independence. When society tells them they're too much, they don't shrink. They expand. When the world tries to box them in with expectations, they break the box and redefine what success and leadership mean on their own terms. The world is not used to a woman who is confident in her solitude, who can walk into a room and command attention without uttering a word. It's unnerving, unsettling, and yes, it's feared. The woman who doesn't rely on external validation or approval is dangerous because she's unpredictable. She is a wild card in a world that loves its systems and structures, and that's where true power lies. INFJ females don't just play the game, they change it. They may not be the loudest in the room, but their silence is louder than any noise. They don't seek approval, they create their own opportunities. They don't seek to dominate, they seek to innovate, to heal, to evolve. They don't wait for the world to catch up. They drag the world forward, often without even trying. In every movement, in every revolution, in every significant shift in history, it's not the people who are satisfied with the status quo who make the real change. It's those who refuse to accept things as they are, and INFJ females, they will never accept things as they are. They are always questioning, always evolving, always pushing the boundaries of what's possible. This is the untold truth. Fear is not a mark of failure. It is the ultimate recognition of potential. When society fears a woman, it means she is stepping into her power, unyielding and unapologetic. She has become a force so undeniable that she shifts the very fabric of the world around her. An INFJ female's true power isn't just in the things she does, but in the things she chooses not to do. She doesn't waste time on unnecessary drama or validation seeking. She doesn't perform to meet society's expectations of how she should show up, because she knows the real power lies in showing up as herself, authentic, unapologetic, untouched by the noise around her. The world has always been built on a foundation of rules that were never meant for everyone to succeed. These rules weren't designed for INFJ females, they were designed to silence them, to box them in, to keep them in their place where their power could be contained. But INFJ females, they don't fit in boxes. They make their own. This is why they are so feared. Every time an INFJ female rises, she challenges the norm. Every time she refuses to bend to societal pressures, she sends a shockwave through the world. And though it may take time for the world to catch up, it eventually realizes that the change she brings is not temporary, it's transformative. Because INFJ females don't settle for good enough. They see through the facade, they break past the limitations, and they demand better. They won't be the ones to accept mediocrity. They won't be satisfied with half measures. The world may try to resist their energy, but that resistance only fuels their fire. When an INFJ female speaks her mind, the world listens. Even if it takes time, even if it's uncomfortable. Her voice is the kind that cannot be ignored, not because she forces it, but because it comes from a place so deep within her, so raw, so real that it demands attention. This is why the system is built to keep INFJ females in check. It's not about her being too much or too bold. It's about the fact that when she shows up, she does so with the knowledge that she's been built for more than the world is ready to offer her. And that, my friends, is exactly why they fear her. The true courage of an INFJ female lies in her ability to walk her own path, regardless of how lonely or difficult that path may be. She doesn't fear being different. In fact, she embraces it. She knows that the world doesn't need more of the same. It needs something new. It needs the boldness of a woman who refuses to conform to outdated norms and limitations. An INFJ female understands that being herself is her greatest form of rebellion. She doesn't need to fit in. She doesn't need the world's approval. She simply needs to exist as she is, unapologetically. And that in itself is a radical act. The way she moves through the world without seeking to conform, to be loved, to be accepted, this makes her a force to be reckoned with, and this is where the true fear comes from. People are scared of what they don't understand. They fear the unfamiliar. They fear that which challenges the deeply ingrained narratives they've lived by for generations. And when an INFJ female steps into her power, when she becomes comfortable in her authenticity, she forces people to question everything they've ever known. Every time an INFJ female refuses to apologize for being herself, she sets a new precedent. She teaches the world that strength is not about conformity, but about courage. Courage to rise above the noise. Courage to live life on her own terms. Courage to break free from the chains that society places on her. This courage, it's contagious. It sparks something within others. It says, if she can do it, so can I. Now it's your turn. Every INFJ female has the potential to change the course of history, and you are no exception. Embrace your authenticity. Stand tall in your truth. Own your strength, your independence, your power. Don't let the world's limitations define your potential. Break free from the boxes and rewrite the rules as only you can. If you're an INFJ female, know that you are a force. Your presence is enough. You don't need to ask for permission to be who you are or to chase what you want. The world doesn't fear you because you're too much. It fears you because you're exactly what it's been trying to silence. So, take up space. Speak up, live boldly, and let the world know that you will not be ignored. Join the movement. Stand with those who refuse to shrink. Embrace your power. Because together we are unstoppable. If this message resonated with you, share it with others who need to hear it. Like, comment, and subscribe for more content that empowers you to step into your true power. The world is waiting for you to rise. Don't make it wait any longer.